Good evening, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome back to Salam Media. My name is Thaakir Dawood, and I'm going to be your host for the next 30 minutes, taking you through all the sporting action you can expect this weekend. And then we're going to be chatting to a very special guest, the first woman in Africa to graduate with a UEFA certificate in football management. That's Natalie Barlow. We were supposed to have her last week on air. Unfortunately, she could not make it. However, this week we do have her on the line joining us on Salam Media. But first off, we're going to be chatting all things Super Rugby Unlocked. It's going to be a jam-packed weekend of Super Rugby action. And then we've had news that came out earlier today that the Springboks won't be taking part in the Rugby Championships. That is a massive thing. It's a massive call from Director of Coaching Rassie Erasmus. And what does the public have to say about it? Could the players not have been ready? Do you think that this would financially impact the Springboks going forward? What are all the pros and the cons? If you've got comments and you want to share your thoughts, you can do so in the comment section below, as we will be having a rugby analyst and a commentator, but more famously known for his stint in Super Rugby and also him playing rugby with the Springbok Sevens. He goes by the name of Mac Messina. Good evening, Mac. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. There's currently a game.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's good
the Cheetahs taking on the Bulls.
Sorry?
Mac, we've got the Cheetahs that's currently taking. Yeah, we've got the Cheetahs that's currently taking on the Bulls, and I mean it's a jam-packed weekend of Super Rugby action. What's your thoughts on that exactly?
Yeah, well, the first game, it's this tonight's game that started at 7 already. It's just things have been so exciting from the Cheetahs' point of view. They've just scored a try now. They're 10 points to 3 at this moment, so they're doing very good things, especially their backline players, the way they've been attacking, which I think it's awesome to see them play like that. That's the team that is not going to be involved next year when it comes to Pro 14. You know exactly what's happening. SA Rugby actually just, took them out. So they've got a point to prove. That's why they're playing so well today. But knowing the Bulls, they might really just come back. But it's a very good game that we're watching at this stage. And then, it is unlocked. Obviously it's a total different competition. And the Cheetahs are involved and the Griquas as well are involved, including the Pumas. So it's all the unions that are involved except the Leopards, which I really think that is good because the players need to get really opportunity to play. And then tomorrow, we all know that there's quite a few games that are playing tomorrow as well. Lions will be taking on the Stormers away. I think it's going to be a very tough game, that one, if I'm not mistaken. So, of course, as well, with the Griquas team just playing against the Pumas, which I really thought that it's going to be exciting to see those two teams. That's strength versus strength, they kind of like similar, in terms of their union with their players. So it's going to be very good just to see them as well.
Mac, in terms of the Griquas taking on the Pumas, we've seen that the Griquas actually had quite a good game last week and a couple of decisions not going their way and them coming short against a strong Bulls team that is taking on the Cheetahs currently. Then you had on the other hand the Pumas who went down dismally to a phenomenal Cheetahs team, if you can call it that. Do you see much of the same where the Griquas will just be dominating the Pumas in this match, or do you see the Pumas coming out with a point to prove, especially with their coach being Jimmy Stonehouse, and we know how hard he is on his players?
Yeah, I think from my side it's going to be very tough just to call that one. I mean, Griquas, they're very good normally at home. I mean, just because it's just the home side advantage, I'll definitely go for Griquas. But don't write off that Puma team. Jimmy Stonehouse, he was not really impressed about last week's performance about his players. So I'm sure he's going to really just rev them. They will come really just up and firing and all that stuff. But the difficult thing is that they're going to be playing away in Kimberley, which I think, I mean, we all know that even, the top side, they have fallen in Kimberley against Griquas. So a very tough, a drive, or maybe I should say, flying to Kimberley from the Pumas. But it should be very exciting to see those two teams because it's both teams. They lost last week, so that both teams are looking at least just to fix the things and make sure that they win this weekend.
No, definitely. And I mean, if you look at both those teams, they've got a couple of standout players. From my side, I've certainly seen some good players last week having a showing. I mean, who are some of the players that stood out for you in between those two teams, and who can you be expecting to make an impact in tomorrow's games?
Yeah, I think if you're looking at the players that stood out for me, I was just quite impressed with the Pumas That big eighth man, Rousseau obviously didn't get enough opportunity, but I could see that he had a little bit of something in him. And just players as well. I mean, their fullback is not that bad. He's played for the Stormers. I just forgot his name.
Devin Williams. You guys all know Devin Williams.
Yes,
Yeah,
Devin
the pocket
Williams. I
rocket.
really think that, he needs a team, similar like the Cheetahs. If he was playing for the team like the Cheetahs, where the back three become, the striking force, I really think that, you'll go far. Because I felt as if the opportunities, he didn't really just get them. But he's the one to watch.
No, certainly. And I mean, he's coming up against a much experienced backline. I know we've got Tim Whitehead that's going to be in the Griquas team. And then there's also a number of other players. We've seen the likes of Ashland Davids recently making his first run out for the Griquas. So there's quite a number of players that there is to look out for in that Griquas team. Anybody that struck your eye in that team?
Yeah. Look, you're talking about Tim Whitehead. We all know that he's a general there in Kimberley. So I think he showed last week that he can really step up onto the high level. And of course, you'll be really just captaining the team and making sure he's a senior player as well. I like the way he plays. Unfortunately, he's still playing for the sport union, but he can fit in any other unions really, because I know for a fact that he can do a little bit of something even extra more for his team.
No, certainly. And it's quite good. It's going to be an interesting game tomorrow. But then it all comes down to the big one of the weekend. The North-South derby. We've got the Stormers taking on the Lions at Newlands Stadium. Your thoughts on that one? The Stormers have certainly managed to get time to suss out the Lions. And now you've got them taking the pitch tomorrow, even at 7 o'clock. What can you expect out of this?
Yeah, just looking at the Lions last week, I really thought that they had a big chance of beating the Sharks. They really just let it out there. They really left the game out there in Durban. And luckily they'll get a second opportunity and all that stuff. But if you're looking at the Stormers as well, they didn't really fire with all cylinders. So this is their game where they'll really make sure that they make things happen. And we know the Stormers, they've been getting that time. The first week, they were just quite okay. But Stormers at home as well, I think it's going to be a very tough one for the Lions. However, the Lions, they've got quite a few things that they can do. They've always got tricks under their sleeves, especially when the likes of Elton Young still operates at 10, because we all know that he's probably one of the dangerous players that, the Lions have. And they like really just giving the ball as well someday. So that's, the Lions players, which I think it's their strength as well. Quite happy to see their loose forward, the Chituka, Vincent Chituka, I think is the one for the future, definitely, with quite a few players from the Lions as well, which I really thought that they've done well. They scrum well, the Lions, so it's going to be a big day when it comes to the forward, battle between backs and forward as well. But the Stormers, we all know that, they're the team that, when you look at the World Cup squad, they had more players that went onto the World Cup, so there's so much experience in that Stormers team. So on paper, with experience, we should say the Stormers can take it. But then again, don't be surprised when the Lions just come away with full maximum points.
No, definitely. You've got the Stormers having 7 Springboks in their squad for tomorrow. And then you've got also, like you said, the likes of Vincent Tuka. I think up front it's going to be quite an interesting battle. Frans Malherbe has been could be the prop, you could say, that came back the strongest after lockdown. I mean, he certainly showed what he can do in the green and gold match. And let's see if he can take that momentum going forward, because we do know that the Lions have struggled last week at scrum time when the Sharks obviously scrummed them on their own penalty for the Lions obviously to go win the game.
Yeah, well, they're really aware of what they need to do, the Lions. Philip Lemmer, he used to coach them when John Ackerman was a coach there, just working with the forwards. But now I think they've just changed the management. Hence, maybe they still need to get used to the new coach. But then again, the Lions will definitely just raise their part, because last week, like I'm saying to you, they're supposed to win the game. The good thing about it is that, last week they played away and then they realized that they can win away from home. So I think they'll have so much confidence that, they nearly beat the Sharks last week. So this week, they'll take it as another day where they say, hey, let's go down there and make sure that we make it happen in Cape Town.
Most definitely, Mac. Both these teams like to play running rugby. We do know that the Stormers have a dangerous backline, and so do the Lions. What is your score prediction on this one tomorrow?
Flip. You know what? Here I'll go with my heart, And my heart says Lions. But because, I'm a Lions fan, I used to play for the Lions, it's my team. I'm not even going to mix my words. I'm going to really just push the Lions for this one just to win.
No, definitely, Mac. Before we let you go, the most interesting part of today, I think it might have just overshadowed the match that's currently taking place between the Cheetahs and the Bulls. The Springboks have announced that they won't be participating in the Rugby Championship this year. This is after Sanzar came out and said that there will be a Rugby Championship come 2020. South Africa's withdrawn. Rassie Rasper stating that his players have not gotten enough match time and enough training time under their belts in order for them to go ahead and play international rugby. Mac, do you think this was a wise decision from a coaching point of view from Coach Rassie?
Look, I think it was a very calculative, decision to making sure that we're not going to be playing against the likes of New Zealand and Australia this year. The question is that do we really have to? I think they sit down, they realize that they don't really have to. I mean, look, the main important games, I think Rassie Rasmus, where he really needs to make sure that he will get his players up and firing is probably next year, in terms of them playing against the Lions. And then we all know that probably the biggest thing as well is just the players' welfare, because the players couldn't really just train as much as they would have liked to, purely because of, COVID. We all know South Africa, in terms of, return to play, it was late, if we compare with New Zealand and Australia. So I think they were aware of that. And then, of course, sometimes, you don't have to force things and say, the players will be okay and all that stuff. Then you send the squad there and then the guys get like 50 or 60. Remember, there's still a reputation as well of being the world champion. So I think that one, they will really just try just to maintain that as much as we can. And then, once again, I think first thing is first, if the players, well-being is not okay, then which means the game can't be played. I mean, in that aspect, I think I'm very happy because, they were not going to be actually just playing, just standing the team there, where we all know that, most of the Springbok teams, well, not teams basically, beg your pardon, the players, they haven't really just played 4 to 3 games. At least you need to have at least 6 games before you go play, a top international side. So if you're looking at our players here at home, they haven't. This is like their second week, actually. The players are being up and running, and then most of the Springbok players as well, they're coming back from injury. So I think it was very good, calculative, decision. However, we all know that there's money involved that, that could be lost, just because of that. But I'm not really surprised that decision was made because, on the other side, the sponsors was confirmed yesterday. So perhaps maybe, there was money that was going to cover all that thing with the FNB coming up again and staying for another couple of years sponsoring the Springbok team. So I think they're all covered in that aspect. But for the players' point of view, well-being, I really support the course.
And I think it's quite notable just to say how well SARU is doing on the business side of things, because even though we're going through COVID and many companies are going through financial difficulty throughout this time period, the Springboks still managed to secure and keep that FNB sponsorship going forward. They've managed to keep their staff, and even though staff has taken reduced salaries, I mean, they're still fully functional throughout this COVID period and everything. And I think we can certainly take our hats off to the administrators that are a lot of the time put under a lot of slack from the South African public for South African public not claiming that they do their job properly. But I think we can give them a massive well done, and we can give them a round of applause for that.
Yeah, look, actually they are struggling, to be honest. Hence they were really working very hard. They were struggling. Well, until yesterday with the new sponsors that been announced. And but regardless of what, it's good to see the likes of the big banks, just getting involved in rugby. Same as the ABSA that left the ABSA Curry Cup. But then again, it's going to be good just to see the guys, regardless of what. I mean, this competition unlocked, Super Rugby Unlocked is going to go all the way October, November anyway. Until December, if I'm not mistaken.
Right
so
through to January.
Good, as long as if we keep the players being active, even if it's locally, I think it will be good enough for next year to make sure that players, they're coming up and running against the likes of British Lions next year.
No, definitely. Certainly one we can look forward to. And I think next week we could certainly chat about that on air, as we do know that the British and Irish Lions will be coming to town come 2021. It's going to be an interesting one. Mac, thank you so much for your time this evening. This is all we had time for. I mean, thanks for your insight and good luck with your matches that you're going to be covering this weekend.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dave. Lovely stuff. Cheers.
It's always a pleasure. That was Mac Messina, the former Lions flanker. that joined us online, flanker or wing. I could be speaking under correction, but yeah, he's an amazing gentleman. His knowledge is so broad of the game that he could talk for days. But yep, there you've heard it from the expert himself on what to expect in tomorrow's fixtures, what we could also be expecting in the upcoming spring with the Springboks as well. But yep, that's all we have time for in our rugby segment. After the break, we're going to be joined by Africa's first female, Natalie Barlow, who has graduated from the UEFA academy with a certificate in football management. We're going to be with Natalie right after this break.